Hey everybody, how you doing? Glad to see you're all still here. So, time for another video. It's come to my attention that a lot of people want to be hunters but don't know how. And to start off with, I think that to be a hunter, it requires a calling, like a serious calling. For me, for example, I've had experiences with all kinds of crazy things for just about as long as I can remember. And, my family kind of has always dealt with it. It's not something that I think everybody is here to do, though I do think that everybody is capable of at least contributing in some way. Um, but for those of you out there who are watching these videos, I'm sure that you feel like you have a calling. But I would say before you start to do anything, really do some soul searching and see if this is really what you want to do. Because above all, it's a sacrifice, because you're sacrificing a lot of opportunity. Um, we don't really make all that much money. We don't really get a lot of security. Um, but everything that we do, it does help people, and it is a great thing. But we don't get a whole lot out of it aside from the satisfaction of helping people. So it's important to do that before you do anything else. I know it took me years before I really figured out this is what I wanted to do with my life. Um, and yeah, so that's the first thing. Second thing is if you want to be a hunter, you have to train, and I don't just mean your body, which is important, but you have to train yourself mentally to handle the stress of dealing with what you're dealing with, and you need to know how to do everything that you're doing. You need to have the skill, the strength, and the mentality to deal with these things. You don't need to be a super genius. You don't need to be the strongest man on earth. You don't need to be the most agile person. All that you need to do is just make sure that you can do everything you need to do to the best of your ability. Because this is a very dangerous job, okay? The average ghost can be quite dangerous just on its own. Um, I am dealing with things that are supernaturally strong, that are capable of harming me in ways that I can't even describe to you. Um, None of them are easy. Like, I say that ghosts are the easiest things that I deal with, and I mean that as in they are probably the easiest things to get rid of to a certain extent, but it is not an easy task in any means. They're all dangerous. It's, it's like Deadliest Catch. Just crabbing, but it's incredible crabbing. If you got that reference, it's it is not the most dangerous job, I don't think. Those guys who climb up those really tall towers, they probably have it a little bit worse than I do. But for me, it is a very dangerous job. And so training basically implies that you need to be able to do a few different things. First of which is you need to be able to calm yourself in intense situations, because not only, especially for first timers, is this the scariest thing they will ever do, um, but it is very easy to get caught up in the hysteria of the whole thing. And I think that it's important to be able to mentally ready yourself for what is coming. And I think that's probably the most important thing, because as soon as you lose your head, you lose your head. First hunt I went on, I was pretty terrified, and I didn't get hurt, luckily, but it does kind of mess with you. And if I had been a little bit more prepared, I think I would have done much better. And of course, it was with a group of people that knew what they were doing, but it's a tough gig. So included with that is also to train yourself physically. You have to be in good shape. I mean, like, look at these guns. Mm. Yeah, feel that. You don't need to be strong or anything. I mean, I'm average. I got enough muscle to make myself useful. Um, but you really have to be capable of handling yourself in a fight, um, because these things will put up a hell of one. You need to keep your body clean and healthy. Um, Many hunters get into this thinking that it's kind of like the smoker thinking, like something else is going to kill me long before this does. And it's really, you need to keep yourself physically capable of healing, of healing spiritually as well, which is very connected to your body. There's a lot you need to do to prepare yourself for this, and physically is very important. You need to be agile as hell. Um, a lot of what we do involves going into buildings that may be dangerous to be in to begin with. So you need to be able to get out of there quickly. You need to be strong enough to like lift yourself up out of a hole. Like you need to be in good enough shape that you can do the things that you need to do. That does not mean that you have to be able to bench press, 300 pounds or whatever. You just need to be strong enough and agile enough to get where you're going. Um, I would say probably the two most important workouts you can do for being a hunter are cardio, because we do a lot of running, and probably back and chest exercises, as well as arms. But usually those, everybody does arms. Um, I'm currently suffering from some back issues from being thrown into walls numerous times and falling down holes, nearly passing out a lot. Um, great life. um, but that's honestly this. Your chest and your back need to be protected from all forms of attack. Um, and yeah, that's really the most important thing. So yeah, that's as far as training goes. You should also be trained in using weapons, because we do. Trained in using magic, and you know your enemy, and also know how you can use magic personally by blessing things, by doing all sorts of things like that, and also getting yourself knowledgeable in lore of a bunch of different types of cultures really does help. I'm still learning. I mean, I'm not really an old person. I'm only like, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm not too old at this point. Um, and so I'm still learning things, and I'm still, getting used to all this. And I like to think of myself as a constant student. But that's that. So, next important point on being a hunter is, again, we do not make much money. We don't make technically any money off of actual hunting, um, which I feel is a good thing, because as a almost like pilgrimage of the soul, hunting should not be a for-profit event. However, there are things that we do to get a little bit of money. These are things that I do. I often write books or articles. I'm constantly writing things that I learn, things that I experience, not necessarily just in the hunting world, but in all aspects of life. I love writing. It's a personal hobby of mine. In fact, one that I'm going to come out with soon is Biology of the Spirit, which I hope y'all pick up. It's quite fascinating. And the profits go to me, which then really go back to you, because they allow me to get to your part of the country. Right. And then, of course, many hunters, including myself, do provide professional, what do we call professional investigation, and elimination for profit. Usually, these are not things that are particularly dangerous, just because people tend to not get the memo. Um, Most of the time, that's seeing if a ghost is there, which I mean, I have methods of doing it that are easy, and then I'll eliminate it, get a profit off of that, which I'm not particularly proud of, but I have to make money somehow. And if people are willing to pay me for it, I don't feel as bad about it. But there you go. I'm also working, like this summer. I plan on doing a travel vlog of me going around the country while I'm hunting. But that's going to be a bit weird. So I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted on that. But anyway, um, another thing is investment. I'm not going to talk much about finance, but investing really does help if you can make a smart investment. I also, and many other hunters also um, sell things that they probably shouldn't be selling. Um, blessed items, enchanted items. Sometimes they sell ghost fetters, which I have a major problem with, and that's not hunters, but that's just people who work in this field. Um, not too crazy about that because it makes my job even more difficult. Um, and yeah, it's those are basically like the big things that we do to get a lot of money. Other hunters will work. A lot of hunters have jobs, even like desk jobs. Um, and the way they really work around this is a lot of hunters have hunting ground, kind of like a area that they will stay in. This can be a state, it can be a community, doesn't really matter. Um, and in this place, they will, they'll have enough free time and enough flexibility with their job that they can do the things they have to do. Generally speaking, hunters stay in one location or in a location that's particularly haunted. Um, places like St. Augustine, Florida, um, you know, just particularly creepy places. Um, this provides them with a lot of work. Um, when a lot of spiritual activity happens in one place, it kind of connects this world to another one, and that can be very tricky. Um, so yeah, and then so those are profit, how we make money. It's not a whole lot. I'm telling you that right now. We do not make a ton of money. We make enough to survive, to put gas in the tank, and that's pretty much it. It's like being a Jane. The religion, not the female. Anyway, so other things that I think are very important to being a hunter. Asking for protection, I think, just having a faith in general is a really important thing because a lot of times when you are in this community, you tend to feel very conflicted about the nature of the world, and it can mess with a lot of people. And I personally have a very strong faith. I'm not going to reveal that to you on video, but I have my convictions, and I feel like it's important for most people to believe in something. And honestly, I don't really care what the belief is. When you believe that there's a power out there that's trying to help you, it really does help you believe. Now, I also know, because I've had a much more experience with things that most humanity doesn't experience, um, I really do feel like there is something out there. I just don't, I can't put my name on it. I can tell you that there are angels and spirits and things that exist. I just can't tell you why, or, yeah. What I consider faith is just a notch above, like, love, and faith is like, you can have faith that a spirit will always be watching over you. And it's not really, you can believe in the spirit wholeheartedly, but I think that faith is knowing that that spirit will always be there for you. And in that sense, I have faith in my own faith. And I really do feel like it's always watching out for me. But that's besides the point. I just feel like that's an important thing, because many hunters who don't have that tend to go down the rabbit hole pretty quickly. Um, it's also important to also train and learn even on like your off time. Um, and it's also good to take a lot of vacations, because this job can get pretty weighty. Um, but keep on learning. That's very important. Oh, and also another very important thing. If you plan on being a hunter that will transverse the country several times, um, enchant your vehicle. I'll probably post a video about that during the summer, um, but it's really useful in more ways than you think. Not my current vehicle, but the vehicle that I'll be getting. Um, there's a lot that I plan on doing to it, and a lot that's actually very interesting. I hope you guys watch that video because it'll be pretty cool. Um, but yeah. So another important thing is that when you become hunter, you often have to take an oath or a creed. Usually, this is done ceremoniously within different hunter groups. But you can even just do this with yourself. most of them tend to follow along this principle up here, which is written in runic, so I'm sorry. It's sorry, travel the world, which is basically, it doesn't really mean you have to travel, but it means that you have to get up off your ass and do things, um, which I think is very important. You need to have the motivation to do what you're doing, otherwise you're just saying you're doing what you're doing, which I know we've all done that, but it's important to really think about what you're doing. And the last part is hunt the darkness and wherever it festers. Um, and yeah, you kind of know what that means. I consider there to be two major forces in this world, light and dark. And light isn't feeding off of something, it's perpetually giving. It's love. It's a force that you can't really describe. It's something. It is in existence. It is pervasive. It is ever present. And I think that darkness would be the opposite of that. It is nothingness. And that's what I think that like sin is, or like weakness. It is a chunk of nothing. As I've described in a previous video, sin is like a chink in the armor. And I don't mean sin in the biblical sense. I mean sin in the, this is a weakness in my soul, or in my spiritual understanding. Um, and as that, as a chink in the armor, or as a hole, that's exactly what it is. Whenever I come across a spirit of greed or a spirit of vice, honestly, what it's experiencing is a void of something, and that's something that needs to be filled. Um, Most of the time, when something becomes corrupt, it's moving away from that light, and it's feeding off of nothing. It's almost like starving itself. It's kind of weird to think about, but it's also kind of sad to think about. Um, you know, there's a real nothingness there, and it's pretty terrifying to think about. Um, but I think that's why hunting is so important. I am almost like hunters, including myself, are like a candle. We carry with us some of that light, and we can spread it to places where there is darkness, illuminating the world in a totally Buddha kind of way. If like Buddha had a shotgun. you know, I've heard from many critics of my profession that hunting is too violent and too brutal, and I would really wish there was a way, a non-violent way to deal with the darkness that's in the world. And I think that there is in certain occasions. But most of the time it comes down to a violent solution. Strictly because it is nearly impossible to break through to the other side without roughing it up a bit, at least. And it's sad that that's the way that it has to be, but if you have cancer, or if you have an illness that is untreatable, the only way to treat it is to get it out. And that involves cutting and removing it. And I think that, unfortunately, that's the only way to do it. Which is sad. But also know that if you want to be a hunter, there's violence involved. If you don't have the stomach for it, then this ain't your profession. Right, so the last bit I have in this video, which is already 20 minutes now, is just these few things. First off, never hunt alone. That is one of our core beliefs amongst almost all hunters. If you hunt alone, it is very dangerous. You need at least backup. You need someone to be there for you. Um, Most hunters work in teams. Other hunters will have hunters that they can call on, or people they can call on to help them if they need it. But I have never heard of a hunter successfully working alone completely. Um, that is very, very dangerous. You need somebody who's got your back, at least for emotional support or something, because the supernatural world has a lot more strength in it than we do, at least in our current state. The main strength that we have is heart and numbers. And numbers really do help. You don't want too many people. I would say the average hunter cell consists of about, and a cell is like a group of hunters, consists of about 5, 7 people. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but that's like the average size. Generally, the crews that I work with are like 3 people, including myself. And that's how I like it. I don't like a big group because it's too hard to manage. But yeah, I feel like that's a good thing. Um, there's a lot of duos out there, which I mean duos work. So if that's your thing, go for it. Um, right. Another very important thing about hunting is that you need to make connections because you cannot go it alone. And these aren't just connections to other hunters. I'm talking about connections to um, psychics, people who are capable of accessing the spiritual world a little bit easier than us, normal-ish people. Um, Psychics are very important. A lot of hunters implement them. Not like Chip Coffey, if you've ever seen like Paranormal State. By the way, Chip Coffey's like a personal hero of mine. Like, oh my god, I idolize the man. Not really, but I just love his accent and like how, oh god, it's so funny. I had friends in high school. We would just laugh watching Paranormal State when Chip Coffey's like, there's a demon in this room. It's just so funny. Sorry, Chip, love you. Anyway, uh, so like hunters, psychics, um, even certain law officials. Hunters tend to have a really bad rep with the law, but if you can get a policeman or even, a couple law officials on your side, that's a very good thing. Medical professionals, become friends with them. You will need them. My mother, she's a medical professional. Um, Her friends, a lot of them are medical professionals. I have plenty of health care on that line. I even get, things from her line of work. And then I've met other doctors around the country that are helpful in that respect. Um, it's good to know people who are capable of patching you up because you will get hurt a lot. Um, Bruises, that's the kind of thing you can shake off. Open bleeding wounds is what we're really talking about here. And you want to be able to go to the right person for that. Also, it's good to have somebody with a little bit of medical knowledge on your team because they can patch you up too. I've done that. I have friends who have done that. Um, it's just good to have. Um, oh yeah, this is something I haven't really talked about much before, but prophets or people who get these. I don't want to call them prophecies, but I want to call them contact with the divine. Prophets are humans who are they can directly channel a specific spirit or even what I consider to be the creator. Um, Talk to him or her directly. This isn't like supernatural, which again, I cannot tell you how many times I've told somebody that I'm a hunter, and they're like, "Oh, you're just making it up. You're just watching too much Supernatural." And it's like, no, Supernatural's fake. It's not real. None of it is real. The only thing they got right is that cold iron works, and that there is magic in the world, but it's not the way it works on there. Like, I digress. A prophet is somebody who has direct connection with the divine, and then they receive sometimes visions, they receive knowledge, things that are useful, and it's often to the benefit of mankind. It's not to the benefit of the prophet, it's not to the benefit of any particular person. They are just indirect contact, and they can also petition for miracles on your end, which is really cool. Um, they're kind of like old wizards. A lot of them tend to be old. I don't even know why. It's just the way it is. Um, but yeah, having one of those in your contacts list is a very good thing. Healers. So psychics are what I would consider the gifted, or people who are given gifts directly from the divine or from spiritual means. Healers are psychics in the sense that they are also have gifts, but their gifts are more physical. They can imbue the body with healing energies. They can also use their own energy to harm spirits. They're actually really cool, good to have around. Um, and yeah, I've already told you several times about a girl who is a healer that I know, and she's awesome. Um, yeah, weapons manufacturers. Um, it's good to know a few, because they're really cool, and they can hook up with some really awesome things. I'm constantly coming up with weapons myself and passing them off to them, and then they're just like, no, that's not what work, and I'm just like, alright, cool, glad you looked at it. Ooh, Wiccans or people who know their way around magic, good to have, because they will know how to do a lot of things that you don't. Um, not every single Wiccan or not every single magical practitioner knows what they're doing. A lot of them are like, oh, Easter is all about Jesus, and it's like, no, it's not. Not that I'm just find someone who knows what they're doing. Okay, if they talk about like, their feminine power shrine, then it's probably not what you're looking for. Yeah. So basically, the whole point of having these contacts is having eyes and ears in all locations, so that information can get passed to you quickly. Knowing other hunters is very important. So you all know me. I'm your connection to a bunch of other people. Now you have all kinds of connections. This is what I mean. When you get to know more people, you're opening yourself up to like a spider web of a group. You are essentially connecting yourself to a bunch of other people in a way that you can't even understand. And word spreads pretty quickly. If, like if I have a friend out in California who is concerned about his neighbor having a poltergeist phenomenon, I can get that information almost the next day and be there in a certain amount of time. Or I can even get somebody that I know. It can literally go from one end of the country to the other, back to the other end of the country, getting a hunter that I know to come and help out. That's how crazy it is. We call it the network, but Twilight Network, but it's once you have these connections, you're capable of doing a lot. And I think that's very important for young hunters to um, get these connections early so that you can get where you're going quicker. Okay? Alright, so that's about it for this video. If you guys have any comments, rates, or comments or questions, please pass them on up. A viewer asked me to do a video on exorcism, and I will try to do that as soon as possible. It's a bit of a tricky subject just because exorcism is different depending on every single type. But yeah, and I'm not an exorcist myself. I am not that good at it. I've attended several. I have helped out in several. I tend to leave exorcism up to the professionals because it's a very dangerous thing. But yeah, so, alright, rate, comment, subscribe, guys, and happy hunting.